our last video, we introduced the Hosts of Slaanesh, which explored how the different armies of the Dark Prince reacted to his disappearance and absence. But who are, collectively, the Hedonites of Slaanesh? Well, in this video, we're going to be taking a look at their leadership, those crude and debased heroes that may have multiple motivations, but ultimately fight for the exhilaration, sensation, and personal glory of it. As for all of these lore videos, when I start talking about specific units, understand they don't have the same amount of lore or background. Some are very brief, others have a lot of depth, but I'll always do my best to make it entertaining. One thing we can certainly say about every single hero in this book is their relationship to pain. They have evolved beyond simple pleasures, art, music, drugs, sex, that kind of thing, and moved into something much more destructive. To feel the illuminating sensation of pain is a new experience to revel in, as is the delivery of that sensation. Slaanesh himself revels in the ecstasy of these indulgences, the euphoria of pure sensation and debauchery. They love inflicting pain on others, and they love the feeling of having pain inflicted upon them. And this is a key bit of lore to understanding how the rules function for the army in game, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. Starting off with the Keeper of Secrets, this is certainly the most iconic unit in the Slaanesh range. And it has an incredible new model. The Keeper of Secrets is the perfect place to start because it embodies everything that Slaanesh is about. This very unsettling kind of beauty, its speed, grace, androgynous form mask the terrifying monster that it is. On the battlefield, they are truly horrific. They move with a speed that just seems wrong for their size, and they dart across the ground like these living blenders, dismembering, disemboweling, and decapitating the enemy in this hurricane of gore that also looks like an elegant dance at the same time. So it kind of plays with your mind where you're seeing something totally gruesome, but also it's done with such grace and beauty that you're kind of mesmerized by it. And that's something I want to stress with all the heroes that apply here. That's why I started here, because it's such a great example of all Slaanesh heroes, but this combination of seeing something truly terrifying, it's a demon, the worst warping of everything that you love, your deepest desires, while also outwardly exuding these elements of appeal. It's supposed to draw you in, to distract or entice you, and so that kind of duality is just the coolest thing. That being said, the Keeper of Secrets, even though it has a wonderful new model, they can look and act like just about anything because these demons are a piece of Slaanesh himself, and as Slaanesh becomes interested or bored with certain different things, sensations and thoughts and ways of fighting, he will make children to represent them and kind of move along to something else. So you could have sort of a very gluttonous, large Keeper of Secrets, and that would make equally as much sense as the kind of lithe and graceful thing that we have for a model. So the book gives you a lot of freedom on the kind of personality for your personal Keeper of Secrets. But in addition to that, these are hyper-intelligent beings. Remember, Slaanesh often uses them to scout for information on his prison, so they need to be cunning when it comes to information and people, not just war. Powerful magics and sharp minds allow them to infiltrate the mind of their enemies, to distract, confuse, extort information, tempt them, allure them, and terrify them. And honestly, they're kind of described as being the whole package. They just do everything very well. They don't have the bulk and the presence of Great Unclean Ones, or the war prowess of Bloodthirsters, or the plotting and scheming of Lords of Change for Tzeentch, but there's something to be said about being able to do all those things pretty effectively. They do bring a presence to the battlefield, they are really skilled in combat, and they do have to be good at making plans and schemes like that to be able to get Slaanesh out of his prison. And in addition to that, their effects just seem to be lasting, and this is actually brought up a few times in the Battle Tome, where no one can look upon a Keeper of Secrets and be okay. Even if you survive the encounter, you're a changed person because you've confronted the worst nature of your own deepest desire. Remember, a lot of this army is projecting what you want to see, but in a dark kind of parody of it. And so many of the people who have seen a Keeper of Secrets and survived will kill themselves because they can't handle what's happening to them. In addition to that, they'll also sometimes just go insane in this slow process of giving into Slaanesh. My point is, the effects are not all immediate, which poses a huge threat to the forces of order when you think about things like the Knights Excelsior for Stormcast, who will kill order members in order to purge any type of corruption. Now, tacked on to the Keeper of Secrets, I thought this was a good place for it, is a new named Keeper of Secrets that we have called Shella Xena. Every Chaos God has their champion, right? Tzeentch and Slaanesh are similar in that there seems to kind of be a rotating door of who's the favorite, right? Tzeentch has kind of an arbitrary system for determining who's the greatest Lord of Change, and Slaanesh just kind of gets bored with different champions and wants something new and thrilling. But one Keeper of Secrets stands above the pack, and that is Shella Xena. Such is Slaanesh's vanity that no other heroes in the realms can have as much renown or garner as much success as one of his. The jealous god strikes down what he perceives as false idols with this. This is his perfect weapon, his perfect assassin, and that is who Shella Xena really is. Put simply, Shella Xena is an attack dog and an assassin. When Slaanesh marks a target, they become the all-consuming desire, drive, and goal for Shella Xena. To aid her in this, she has some of the best senses in the realm. Those same instruments, designed to kind of take in this flood of emotion and that kind of sensation in battle, make for a deadly hunter when put to that purpose. The powerful antenna on her head can sense far-off vibrations in the air. She can see behind the horizon. She can smell the gathering of magic before a spell is even cast. And so, by blending all of these senses together, she can kind of, in her mind, create perfect trails that lead her directly to her quarry. Where she struggles, however, are places where senses are muffled. Specifically, the one they call out is the underwater kingdoms of the Idoneth Deepkin. Like other Keeper of Secrets, she's kind of constantly whispering promises upon the wind to all of her enemies around her, right? Tempting them to come join her. The difference is hers are so strong that they cannot be refused. And as a side note to kind of pin how cool she's supposed to be, the demons that follow Shella Xena await with delicious expectation for the day where she's able to actually go kill a god beast. Basically, they think she's so awesome, they're waiting for this moment where she's going to stun them all by slaying something that is truly immense. And now we're going to move into the Heralds of Slaanesh. This is kind of the broad term they have for this section, so important note that applies to all of these heroes. And so while the Keeper of Secrets are the purest form and power and authority, Slaanesh has many plots and schemes that require a lighter touch. And so these lesser representatives are collectively known as Heralds, and they're a great source of this kind of power that incites riots across the realm. Before Slaanesh's capture, there was this very fluid hierarchy of authority, right? Whoever was in Slaanesh's favor more was elevated. Those who kind of plateaued in their acts of service fell. And so the highest honor is the chance to feed the god himself, like you're pulling the grapes off the vine and dropping it in his mouth. But there was a structure, right? Whether that sounds enticing to you or not, there was a structure built around doing things that Slaanesh loves, inciting violence, excess, chaos, and so forth. Well, when Slaanesh disappeared, that system crumbles apart. The hierarchy based on favor doesn't work if there's no one there to display that favor. The demons have generally become fractured, fighting over authority. They don't have the same reassurance of their god, but they do their best, hoping their actions will one day see Slaanesh restored, or that when he returns, the one who garnered the most favor while he was gone will become his chosen child. So now instead of a game of promotion and demotion, it's a race to earn the most favor before he gets back. And honestly, to make it very, very simple, a lot of these are just different takes on the basic Herald of Slaanesh model. So there's little variations, but generally speaking, they're just that unit in different kind of roles on the battlefield. Starting off with the Vice Leader. This is by far the most numerous of the Heralds, and again, they're called Vice Leaders, and they certainly do a lion's share of the work when it comes to sowing discord in the cities of order. These are basically demonettes that have elevated to the rank of leadership, given authority and a bit of magical prowess. They also have the responsibility of taking down as many souls as possible, corrupting them in the darkest of depths. And they do this by fostering indulgence, sowing discord and corruption. And this used to be a very slow-going process, right? A faint cultural change over generations that saw morals brought low, hedonism raised up. And if you want to see a kind of snapshot of that in action, go read the Sundering series from Warhammer Fantasy Battles, when the pleasure cults are introduced to the elven culture. But times have changed in the mortal realms. With all the demons competing for the eventual favor of Slaanesh, you want to say that you corrupted more and more towns than anyone else. Not to mention that the Stormcast Eternals are constantly rooting out evil. So they are in overdrive. In the hearts of bustling cities, they breed evil and discontent, and they pull artisans and political leaders down to their basest levels and try to twist cities from the heart out, kind of pulling down that highest echelon of society. So you might have something like a cult centered around a single vice leader who kind of acts sort of as a de facto deity or representative of a priestess or a higher power or something like that, and just twisting them over time. In addition to vice leaders, there's another unit called the Bladebringer, and these basically refer to any type of herald that's riding a chariot. Doesn't matter which kind of ride they are on. See, during the late days of the Age of Myth, some vice leaders were tasked to bring artifacts and weapons from the Realm of Chaos from Slaanesh's domain into the mortal realms. And at first this was done one by one. But having all these weapons in their hands, or their claws I guess you should say, took their toll on the heralds because over time they wanted to carry more and more of them. They were excited to see how much carnage they could cause with so many weapons, and it comes to this point where you just can't effectively carry any more weapons and use them all in battle. But their fixation on this knew no bounds, and so these kind of crude contraptions were made, right? These initial chariots. And so what they really did was these Slaanesh chariots of all kinds are fitted with a myriad of deadly weapons that make up the blades on the rear. Calling themselves Bladebringers, these heralds ride atop death machines, reveling in the carnage they can bring on the battlefield. It's just jamming as many weapons as you can together and then making that a usable thing. And it's so metal. Next up is the Infernal Rapturous. So these are masters of and represent the true insidious nature of Slaanesh. These are the music makers and the doom of so many cities. Going out before an army invades, they're basically heralds that use magic to disguise themselves looking like humans and entering a city, and they start playing these wonderful musics and pieces of art, and they snare and enrapture artists of any kind. Meaning, it could be poets, it could be singers, it could be stonemasons, that kind of stuff. And the Infernal Rapturous, her presence brings out the best of everyone's talent. People just feel inspired around her, and it drives them into a deep frenzy. The obsession they have with their crafts takes a sinister turn after a while. Many of them go mad, seeking perfection they can't attain. Some of them die in starvation, foregoing bodily needs just to keep working on their craft. At a certain point, there will be only a single survivor within that kind of entourage she establishes, and to that artist alone she will show her true form. At that point, they are invited to carry on their artistry to new levels, and that is by becoming the heartstring lyre, an instrument of nightmares, trapping this artist in this kind of state of pure ecstasy and agony for their lifetime. They become the literal instrument of elations for so many. It is a hell that they willingly accept for utter devotion to their craft. The Rapturous plays them like an instrument, chords made from the soul, kind of torn and put into string form that forms kind of this crude harp. And the music alternates between rapidly changing tones that elicit wild emotions and get people riled up, or one long note that listeners become absolutely consumed by. The sheer magnitude and volume of this weapon is super dangerous to anyone nearby. Next up is the Mask. And so the Mask is funny because it's a character model with pretty much the shortest backstory ever. You see, back in the day, she used to comb Slaanesh's hair, which is just a normal, I guess we would call vice leader, it's a normal herald of Slaanesh, and entertain him with dancing. She was kind of like a jester or a muse, something like that, just a little bit of entertainment for Slaanesh himself. And she was a favored herald for sure. Well, at some point, Tzeentch remember, they're always playing this great game where all four of the Chaos Gods want supremacy. Somehow he tricks Slaanesh into basically trying to fight Khorne and Nurgle at the same time. There's not really any details about what he did or how he stacked it to make it look like he was actually going to win, but Slaanesh lost bad. His pride wounded, Slaanesh fell into despondency, and of course the mask, being his little muse, tried to dance to cheer him up. However, because he was in such a bad mood, Slaanesh did not really receive this well, right? He misunderstood and received this dance as mockery rather than trying to raise his spirits, and so his thought process was like, whoa, you like dancing? You can dance forever. And so he put this curse upon the mask that she can never stop dancing, and so she's trapped that way even now in this state of perpetual motion, acting out plays and dramas. Her power or character isn't that amazing, but the fact that she was singled out for something like this makes her incredibly unique. Next up is the Contorted Epitome. This is a new unit and has one of the coolest origin stories by far. See, there once was a man named Venatan, that's at least how I'm going to pronounce it. He was an artisan seeking to perfect his method of silvering glass. It's old school mirror making. His prototypes sold for extreme sums of money. The rich and the powerful fought to get the mirrors that he had made, and so Slaanesh was kind of watching this from afar and noted the absolute narcissism and vanity that this artist had created, right? He created this universe where people are fighting over to look at themselves in their pretty mirrors. Well, when Venatan is old and retired, he's sitting in his workshop and he's looking at his mirror, just kind of contemplating his life's successes. And at this moment, Slaanesh reaches through the mirrors and pulls him into the realm of Slaanesh, subject to an eternity of service. However, while in that realm, Venatan sought to strike back at his captors and invented a new kind of mirror, a magic-based one called the Mirror of Absorption. Basically, it's meant to suck in energy if you look at it, right? If there's something making a reflection in the mirror, it's going to kind of suck it in. I kind of imagine sort of like the Ghostbusters ghost trap just kind of pulls in. And his plan was, I'm going to get Slaanesh to look in this mirror and trap him. And so Slaanesh looks at the mirror, but his power and such size is so huge that it actually breaks the mirror entirely. It was just too much power. However, the god was super impressed with that and ordered Venatan an eternity of making more of these mirrors. And they proved to be an extremely deadly weapon on the battlefield. And when a mirror is made, basically he kind of inserts that into a living frame that moves. It kind of has this weird tentacle look to it. And that whole setup is guided by a pair of the choicest heralds. The mirror absorbs the most impressive damage coming out. And so to look into that mirror is to see your fears and desires and also be trapped within it. So he kind of flipped it and reversed it. He was a weapon made to fight Slaanesh, but he incorporated it, and it just kind of fits into his overall theme. And the last unit is a really fun story, and this is actually probably my favorite model from the new ones that came out, and that is Syl-Eski, the Vengeful Alliance. We are first introduced to a Herald of Slaanesh named Syl Lewdtongue, which is an awesome name, by the way. And Syl is mocked by other heralds because of her tendency to get a little too attached to the souls that she was pulling into Damnation, right? We were talking about how the Vice leaders go into an area and they just kind of pull people down, have them dive into their deepest desires. Well, she got a little too attached. But the whole point of that strategy is that you can do that multiple times in multiple places and not get attached. So she's getting mocked a bit for that. Well, one day Syl goes down to the Slaanesh gladiatorial pits and saw the most amazing warrior ever there, a giant man named Eski, who was quick to accept Syl's patronage. And with her help and her guidance and the kind of things that her magic and wisdom brings, his rise to the gladiatorial pit kind of upper echelon was outrageous, right? He had the brawn, she had the wisdom. Eventually, he won that kind of gladiatorial game set and became a demon prince. However, even though he had attained demonhood in some fashion, he was still treated like a second-class citizen by other demons, meaning he wasn't just purely made of Slaanesh stuff, he was something else, kind of a half-breed is how they taught about him. So Syl still helps him navigate this new world that he's in. He's out of the gladiatorial pits, but now he's on a whole new game of trying to fight for glory amongst the demons. And she helps him in that realm as well. And so they made a binding pact to one another in front of the throne of Slaanesh. And together this makes them an absolute rarity amongst the Hedonites, right? A pair that works better together than apart. And they enter battle as a single, horrifying unit. You have Eski's brute force, Sill's cunning, speed, and magic on his back, and together they are collectively Sill-Eski, the Vengeful Alliance. So why are these units cool? I kind of breezed through them. There's a whole lot of them, but there are a lot of just variations on the basic Herald. Well, first up, heroes are the defining part of this army, both in lore and gameplay. While other warbands for other gods tend to focus on one leader, this is to a different level, right? This becomes almost like a cult of personality for whoever is in charge. They are the perfect warrior, they are the fearless leader, and if I stand in their shadow long enough, I can be like them or I can steal their seat. In addition to that, these are the architects of ruin for so many cities, infiltrating armies and countries, slowly corrupting the populace, feeding that discord. If you remember in another video we talked about the chains that bind Slaanesh now. One of them was called the Chain of Utmost Betrayal, and it locked in Slaanesh. It could only be unlocked by a act of great betrayal. Well, they managed to do that by infiltrating these cities and getting the defenders to turn on the civilians. And this is the exact set of heroes who made that happen. It resulted in Stormcast Eternals killing thousands of innocent people. They are the first to battle, brutal, efficient killers who love the thrill of killing and bloodshed, and that's across all of them. As for what I like about some of them specifically, can we all just agree that the mask got a raw deal? She was just trying to cheer the guy up and got a raw deal. I understand, I feel bad. My personal favorite, to be honest with you, is Sill-Eski, and I talked about that before. I love Demon Princes and that merger with him and the Herald. It's so unique, and it just makes sense that, like, it's a rarity that two people will look at each other and be like, we make a good team, and that's such a cool idea. The backstory for the contorted epitome is rad. A mirror that can absorb power, just weaponized when you throw it on a platform, is really cool stuff. But tell me, what is your favorite unit from the ones we talked about today? Certainly some of the Exalted Chariot versions and stuff like that are super, really, really cool. And I want to hear your thoughts down below. In tomorrow's video, we're going to cover all of the units that these heroes lead into battle and wrap up Slaanesh Week. So thank you all so much for watching, and I'll catch you tomorrow. Happy wargaming.